Hi, I'm John Groders. Today I'm interviewing stand-up comedian and actor Michael Joyner. From his leading role opposite Lou Gossett Jr. in The Grace Card, you'd think him a very substantive and serious actor. But if you see him do a stand-up routine, you'll just laugh your head off. Meet him here on No Shame.
Have no shame, no, we are not afraid, no shame of the gospel of his name. It's the power of God by which we all are saved. We need not be afraid, no shame.
We're at ICVM. We're on the floor of the Marriott Hotel, and I have with me tonight's MC, Michael Joyner. Welcome to the No Shame Podcast.
Oh, thanks, man. I like that name, No Shame.
No Shame Podcast. Why? Is that you? Are you
That's
bold?
me, buddy. Oh, you better believe it. No filter.
No filter.
Yeah.
So how's that worked for you?
Well, it's gotten me a lot of comedy gigs. You know, it works great on the stage in real life. You know,
Why
gotta
does my
watch it.
wife not appreciate sarcasm as much as she should? I never understand that. I've got this great sarcasm. You know, you should love that. Doesn't work at home so well.
Oh, I have so much marriage stuff from everyday life. I mean, sometimes we'll be talking about something, and I say, hold on, I got to write something down. You'll see. She's the best wife in the world, but things just happen, so.
Michael Joyner, tell me your story a little bit. Give us a little autobiography.
Oh, man, as you know, if you're a Christian for any length of time, that story could go on for hours. But that's funny because I was writing my testimony, a shortened version recently. I wanted to put it on YouTube with some visuals. And I was writing all that, born to a teenage unwed mother in the ghettos of Gary, Indiana. No dad till I had a stepdad who did drugs. And I just started realizing how much God saved me from. I had guns pointed in my face. I did drugs at a very young age, and no Christian upbringing whatsoever. There's just so much I can talk about. But I got saved in high school, and I was the only one saved in my family. I got saved and didn't realize there was more to getting saved than just getting saved. It was the year, believe it or not, Jimmy Carter became president, and I remember reading on the front page, it says, Jimmy Carter says you must be born again. I'd never heard that term. And the Holy Spirit started convicting me. And I came home early from a party one night because the idea of where I'm going after I die was just so heavy on me. And I knew from looking into it that I had to ask Jesus into my heart. I just knew that. I prayed a prayer. I got saved. The next morning, I wanted to read the Bible. I couldn't read. I started telling people, and because I had no one around to tell me about growing in the Lord and, all that, I kind of, out of ignorance, eventually backslid. I was very confused and eventually allowed the devil to even tell me nothing ever happened. But at that same time, my mom got saved and my grandmother, and they became good. They followed the right path. So for many years, I was a very confused, lukewarm Christian, mostly out of ignorance. Every time I tried to go toward, I didn't realize I had two natures inside of me now. Every time I tried to go towards the Lord, I'd hear a voice saying, what are you doing? He doesn't want you. That nothing happened. I even thought I committed some unpardonable sin. But it was in 1988 in Hollywood, California, when I was living this type of life. My mom praying for me, my grandmother, everybody praying for me, that I gave my life to the Lord in the most unconventional way. There was a booklet at that time called 88 Reasons Jesus is Coming Back in 88. I read that booklet, and as a Christian who didn't know any better, I said, this looks real, and this is going to happen in 2 months. So God used that to get me to do what he wanted me to do, which was seek me with all your heart. So I dropped everything, and I prayed for days and even weeks until I felt the Lord say, I just almost felt like the devil leave me. And the Lord showed me that he'd been lying to me. And I felt the Lord impress in my heart, you were saved the first time you asked. Go out and start acting like a Christian. So I went out and started telling people about Christ every day. People were getting saved left and right on Hollywood Boulevard. And the more I acted like a Christian, the more the Holy Spirit convinced me you are a Christian. Walk in the Spirit, read the Word, pray. And so from there, since 1988, I really consider that my real conversion. And that's when I got into comedy. It's funny, I didn't have the desire to do comedy till I gave my life to the Lord. So for me, that scripture, delight yourself in the Lord and He will give you the desires of your heart. I wonder if that means you won't even have the desire until you give your life to the Lord, because I've always been a cut up and a smart aleck, but I never thought of using it as a stand-up comedian. So I started doing churches, and I always wanted to be an actor all my life, and I started getting into theater in the Chicago area when I moved back home. And so many things happened. I found my wife in Raytown, Missouri. She was going to Central Assembly of God there, where I did comedy, and that was in the early 90s. I moved to Kansas City. We got married. We had 2 boys, and I told my wife, someday we're going back out to Hollywood because I want to pursue a serious acting career. In 2002, we went out to Hollywood. It wasn't easy, but I saw God's hand on everything I was doing. I started studying with some of the A-list teachers. I was learning stuff that was just unbelievable, stuff that I knew the Oscar winners knew as an actor. I eventually got an agent, and 350 auditions later, and several roles later, it's 2008 that we had to sell our house on a short sale, because if you remember, that was a bad year for the economy. I thought, well, we're not going to leave Hollywood because God's called me to be an actor. But we had to leave Hollywood and go back to Kansas City, and it broke my heart, and I felt God rip that career right out of my heart. But what He put in its place was something that I allowed to become second place, and that was Him and my family. And then 3 months after being in Kansas City, I said to my wife, God's still going to do something. He wants me to be ready. Keep studying my acting, be ready. Then I get a call from some guys in Memphis making a movie called The Grace Card, written by Howie Klossner, who wrote Space Cowboys. They said, we saw your acting reel. We want you for the lead role. They didn't even want to audition me. And at that time, from what I knew of faith-based films, I wasn't impressed. I said, let me see the script. I read the script and was almost in tears. I said, man, this is a role for me. I gave them my price. They didn't flinch. We made the movie, and it was just like Sherwood Pictures, went to theaters, was bought up by Sony Pictures, and since then, from Kansas City, I've done over a dozen faith-based films, starred and co-starred. And it hasn't been an easy road, but God knows what He's doing. He can do anything from anywhere. I didn't have to be in Hollywood, thank God, because I honestly don't want to go back there if I can help it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm making my own films now. I've been doing comedy for 25 years at both secular events. I just signed with Larry the Cable Guy, who's a Christian, and he approached me about signing with his record label. So things are moving forward in that respect. But in all of that, I think if I would have got my promotion, so to speak, or any breakthrough before God brought me through that, I would just be another casual Christian, not really doing much for the body of Christ, no character. And I might even be divorced because I had I didn't even realize I was putting my family below my career. So God did a lot of stuff in me that at this point I just want to do stuff for Him. I don't have that desire to hang out and win an Oscar or anything. I just want to use my talents and abilities for Him, and man, He knows what He's doing. That's the best thing I can tell you.
Yeah, it's actually a good place to be. It's actually really cool to be sort of secure in the Lord and not so sort of starving for the things that our industry says we need to starve for, because everybody who gets them ends up coming back and saying it almost killed me, or it did kill me, or it killed. You know, I love the verse you just quoted, delight yourself in the Lord, He'll give you the desires of your heart, because you made a good point. You know, it's maybe not until you do delight yourself in the Lord. I look back and I have to be sort of thankful that God didn't give me the desires that I thought were in my heart. I thought I wanted to be a rock star. I thought had I been that, I don't think I'm still married. I don't think I have a beautiful relationship with my kids. I don't think I've got the friendships and just I'm so glad I didn't get what I thought I wanted. And instead, this delighting in the Lord has given me the stuff that I really now go, this is actually really a blessing. It's beautiful.
And you know, the more I study the Old Testament, it's full of sad stories of folks who insisted, like Saul, and so on their own way, and it shows that even Jesus at one time said, Israel, I long to give you so much, but you don't believe in me, so I can't, you don't reach out to me. That's a scary thing. I think the scariest thing the worst thing about hell is not whatever punishment they're going through, is what they're going to know that everything they really wanted would have been found in the one person they were shunning their whole life. So yeah, man, God's good. He made us. He knows what we delight in. He knows what we really want, and he knows what's harmful to us. So let him have your life and watch him do incredible stuff.
I'm going to talk to you about acting a little bit, Mike. We're talking with Michael Joyner, and our MC for tonight, comedian and actor. But I think probably right before you walked in this morning when Russ was singing, he was talking about doggedness, and he was talking about consistent pursuit, and he was saying that Debbie Boone, this goes back a ways.
Oh, I love Debbie Boone.
Debbie Boone went to 20 of the top music producers, one by one in this area, and she got rejected every time. And then the last one says, I'll take a chance on your song, whatever. It's called You Light Up My Life.
Oh, I remember that.
Which was the biggest mega hit worldwide. But, you just said you knocked 350. Well, rejection is the essence of your game, right? And what's that like?
Yes, and there's, I studied with a lot of great teachers, but I got to tell you, there's no greater teacher than an audition. If you're an actor, the best teacher you'll have is an audition, an actual audition. Utilize it. And the best ones are the ones where you don't get. As you know, you've heard this before. Edison, I believe, said he failed how many times? Thousands of times developing the light bulb. And when they asked him about it, he said, no, I just discovered 1,999 ways to not make the light bulb. So however that was. But so when you audition and you don't get it, look at your audition. What did you do? What can you do next time that's different? And so it's a great teacher. But no, I never expected to do that. Thankfully, I got a lot of those roles. But no, I didn't get a lot. I got about the average is 10%. I think I got 12% of those. So thankfully that happened. But man, I look back and I'm like, I wouldn't trade that experience for nothing. Mm-hmm. That's what made me, become the best actor I can be. And it'll make any actor become the best actor you can be.
I'd appreciate a tip. So you're making movies as well now. So you're on the other side of the audition process, and I'm leaving in a couple of weeks to do 10 days of auditions for an act, with a film that I'm doing. And so I would like to know, how can we, as the director, respectfully do auditions? Like, how do you do it? How do you audition other actors? If you're in person or if you're on Skype or Zoom or whatever, how do you do it?
I have certain adjustments that I give. Well, first of all, I give them absolutely nothing and see how they interpret that. See if they're on the same page with a challenging scene, okay? And then give them the adjustment. And if they can do the adjustment that gives your vision. The good, man, there's so much I learned. It's hard to say it in just one podcast, but because I went to auditions, I remember where they knew immediately, or I didn't realize that's what they knew, but I would say the line, okay, thank you, Michael. I'm like, what? I can go home now? You don't want to see more? But now as a filmmaker and director, I see I could see how they could make that decision quick. And it could be that you're just not, maybe you don't match the person who would be married to the person they cast, who knows? But a lot of times it's just that you're not interpreting, and I'll tell you this, most actors give it too much. They're reading for theater. What I teach I am also an acting coach. What I teach a lot of my students is be that person who's reading for film, and which means here's the microphone, here's the camera, 2 inches in front of your face. That's who you're acting for. You're not even acting for that casting director way across the room. Act for that camera that's right there. It's a close-up, and you don't have to give it very much.
That's why I like auditions actually better on Skype. Because if I'm in the room, there's this automatic projection that isn't what I'm really looking for.
That's funny, yes.
But when we're doing auditions on the computer screen, I mean, it's and then I can have them back up, and if I want to see physical, walk around the room and things. But otherwise, to be in I should actually come closer than you and I are sitting right now, just so you know, because you're actually right. I want to hear the little things. I want to see the subtle interpretations. And if I'm 15, 20 feet away, I don't know. I don't like those. I don't like feeling like I'm the judge and jury and the actor is on trial. I hate that
Right,
feeling as the even if I'm doing the casting.
Yeah.
Plus, I hate making anybody feel rejected. So it's a miserable process.
Right.
And yet, I mean, I go by this adage. I say it all the time. Directing is 90% casting.
You know it is.
I believe it.
It is.
I believe it. You bring me the right cast, and I can't hardly mess the movie up.
You know what, that is true. And I hear Clint Eastwood, and when he just sits down and talks to his, look what a great director he is. He just sits down and talks to his people. He gives them very little direction, and they give the best performance you've ever seen.
Yeah. Because they're not trying to think about how to interpret what the director just told them.
He's not giving them to. I've had directors give me so much, I'm in my head, and I can't get out of my head, and it's like, give them less. Just talk to them as a human being, and man.
That's great. I mean, are you a sports guy? You play sports when
big
you're growing
sports,
up?
yeah.
So you know that one of the ways to guarantee a lousy performance is to be concentrating too much on your performance. It's
That's
very
it.
hard to
So,
shoot a basketball when you're thinking about it. When you're hot, you're not thinking about anything.
Right.
Whatever sport it is, you're caught in the zone. I think acting's the same way. If I've got too many marks and you got to remember left hand here, turn your face at this moment, that's not real life.
No.
We're not sitting here right now trying to hit marks doing a podcast. So
No.
if we're being filmed, so you want to make your actors just as comfortable.
You want them to be organic and honest, right? Real. You know, one thing I do when I direct, one thing that I think they like is I have them give me a small, give me a big, and then, hey, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Give them that, hey, what do you feel? Give me your instinct if you have something different.
That's good.
And they love to be able to do that. You know?
Yeah.
So, and let the editor choose.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. What are you working on now? What's in your dream sequence right now?
I pitched a couple movies while I was here. You know, I often joke about how I've starred or co-starred in so many movies that have the word grace in it. You know.
Wonder why?
Yeah. So I have two movies that I'm pitching that are kind of one is like the Equalizer for Christians, where I'm a big tough guy, former special black ops, and I hid my identity until I find out the guy who runs the bar next door is doing a sex traffic ring, and I just can't sit still. So I go in and try to. There's a lot of people being beat up. Let's put it that way. But he struggles between wanting justice and wanting to please God, which, as you know, God is a God of justice.
Right.
And on a marketing angle, when I pitched it, I reminded them that a lot of people audiences love revenge movies.
Yeah.
Okay, they love the revenge. They love vengeance. Okay, and in my opinion, as long as it's the bad guy getting it, in the end, you can have a good message. So, and then I also have a buddy cop movie called Partner Up. It's a drama and comedy, and it has me as a maverick cop who doesn't do anything by the book. I call that Lethal Weapon for Christians, and I get a by-the-book rookie my last days, you know, before I'm ready to retire, and of course we end up learning stuff from each other, and he becomes the son I never had, but at first there's a lot of conflict and funny stuff, and I don't eat healthy. Everything I do, he gets on my case. He's just total by the book. So I tried to sell those two, and
That sounds kind of fun.
I really do want to cross over and try to get secular people watching my movies, so I don't call my movies like Christian films, but there'll always be that Christian worldview.
Right.
You know, I've been affected in many. Did you ever see the movie that was made in Memphis about the pimp? It's hard up here for a pimp.
Yeah, well, it's an Academy Award-winning song. Yeah.
Well, there's a scene in that movie where this pimp, who is obviously he wants to get this musician to help him make this CD for his song that'll help him break out of this life. He's in the ghetto and all that, so he goes to this black church to wait for his friend who has a job playing the keyboards for this lady, okay, who's singing a song. In this scene, Terrence Malick. Terrence Malick is a director. Terrence, he's a black actor from that Atlanta TV show.
Don't know.
That's called, I can't think of it. He's a great actor. So
I
anyway,
can picture him.
He's sitting in a pew waiting for his friend to get done. He's only in that church for one reason. He's waiting for his friend, and as his friend's playing a song for this lady who's singing a gospel song called God wants to change your name. And as she sings this beautiful gospel song, the camera just closes in on him, closer and closer and closer, as you see, without any words, that this man has never been touched by the Holy Spirit. And a tear comes on his eye, out of his eye, and it's so touching. And then it cuts. It never says anything else in the whole movie about it. But man, that one scene has probably touched me as much as any full-length feature film, that's preaching.
That's Saul DePaul. I mean, that's
that's it.
God's
That's
word.
exactly. Yeah, it's probably on YouTube. You can probably look for that scene, but it's just the most beautiful scene you've ever seen.
Who do people compare you to, Michael? Do they say, "Oh, Michael Joyner, he's kind of like blah 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 blah"? Who do you get compared
My
to?
wife says I'm John the Baptist because people want to cut off my head. But
Well, I liked half of that. I liked that for a minute. Because Jesus called John the greatest man born of woman.
you know what?
so
I remind her of that all the time.
That's what you got to say. You're absolutely right. I am. That's what Jesus considers me.
I would almost say, not quite as edgy, but a Don Rickles. I try the sarcasm I have when I mess with the audience, for instance. The person I'm making fun of is laughing also. He's having a good time.
You're not really cutting him down.
No. They're having a good time.
I'll remind myself to sit way in the back tonight, in the shadows, under a lamp. Don Rickles, man, you like Don Rickles?
I used to love that dude. I just like how he was never serious when he was on Johnny Carson or something. And he's always Mr. Warmth, they call him, which is the opposite what he comes off as.
What about as an actor? You kind of look like Liam Neeson to me. If you're doing these movies, you just told me you'd pitch. Liam's always doing the Vengeance for Venge movies, right? That's
Did you
his
know
thing.
I was Bruce Willis's photo double? I was Bruce Willis's photo double for Moonlighting, so I kind of have his persona a little bit.
Well, that's cool. What'd you learn by it? I had a gal yesterday here that had been doing a stand-in for a movie, and she said it was the best learning experience I ever had.
It's great. Now, stand-in is a little bit different than photo double, but they're very close. But
Okay. What's the difference?
Well, a photo double is going to be on camera. A stand-in won't. What a
see
stand-in
what you're saying,
does is before they go through the blocking, what a photo double does, what I did
You're
was
a stunt man.
Well, no, I wasn't
No?
the stunt photo double. They wouldn't even let me have a pillow fight with Sybil Shepherd. They brought in the stunt double. They couldn't do it, they said.
So there were 3 Bruce Willises.
There were 3, yes. There was one that was filthy rich, and there was me. But so that they took me and Sybil Shepherd's photo double and did the far away shots driving the car, or they did the over the shoulder when I was talking to Sybil. That was me a lot of times, so that Bruce Willis can be studying his lines or flirting with the extras, whatever he did.
See, I don't think I've ever had a budget big enough to have 3 people for one role, so that's
no.
pretty good.
No, not. I know what you mean, but it was a great job, and that was right when I gave my life to the Lord. So it was, and I actually got in a little bit of trouble for witnessing to Bruce Willis. I said something to him about, hey, I'm praying for you that you get saved or whatever, and the producer said, Mike, you don't say that to a man like Bruce Willis. And I said, well, no, everybody needs to get saved, actually.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
but they were a lot of fun on the set. We had a good time. I get that, and I get old Mickey Rourke.
Oh, yeah.
Old Mickey Rourke.
Old Mickey Rourke.
Not the new guy with the face.
Right. He's got the 7 faces of Mickey Rourke. You can only play his stunt double for 2 of those places. This probably isn't a movie we should talk about on this podcast, but I want to. Have you seen Quentin Tarantino's new movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Oh, gosh, I loved it.
I did, too.
Should I not say that?
I don't know. I'm saying
I
the
love
same
Tarantino,
thing.
man.
Well, and you talk about the body double, the relationship in that movie between the actor and his stunt double. I mean, it was really a masterpiece,
2
wasn't it?
brilliant actors.
Yeah, at the height of their powers at this moment.
There's stuff that Brad Pitt as well as Leonardo do. Like he's got that little lisp or whatever.
Yeah, he's trying to get the words out.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
and then there's stuff that they caught from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
little
yeah.
things, because I grew up then.
Me too.
And I'm like, man, I wonder if everyone's catching all this stuff. It was just brilliant.
And the I try. I mean, the friend who is there for the friend and the one who's willing to let the other one have the spotlight.
Yeah.
There's something It's a little bit like Lord of the Rings in some ways, and you got your Frodo character and your Samwise, but the real hero is that friend who's there. And in the end, this is Brad Pitt's character. Now, Quentin cannot help himself from taking violence to some absurd extreme in every movie. So, if you're...
hey, the Bruce Lee scene's brilliant, though.
Bruce Lee, it's hilarious. And the guy playing Bruce Lee, that was comic.
Oh, my gosh.
That was so comic. I imagine Bruce himself was not happy, but...
Well, no, they weren't. I heard that they were a little bit unhappy, but it's a movie, man.
It's funny.
It's the whole thing is just an alternate universe almost,
It is. Well, I'm glad that I risked saying that. I was in Romania last week on a scout trip for a film we're doing, and I was driving around with a producer, and I happened to bring up this movie because watched it for a second time on the plane.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, all right, now I've never met Quentin Tarantino, and I like some of his movies more than others, but man, what can we learn from the way he has constructed a scene and photographed a scene and built dialogue and built tension, and he's very unconventional. And some scenes last 10 minutes, which normally you aren't to do.
Study him
but
if you're
good.
a filmmaker. Study him, and you'll learn. Because remember, he broke all the rules with Pulp Fiction and everything.
I know it.
And he broke all the rules not going to film school.
And isn't that what art ultimately has to do? We had an artist here. Did you hear Jeremy Cowart this week? I don't know if you were here.
Oh, yes. That touched me more than anything so far. The photographer?
Yes.
What he did at
person.
Gatlinburg?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. I said, Lord, I want you to use me like that.
So, if you don't know what we're talking about, Jeremy Cowart has been named one of the top 10 most influential photographers in the world. And he was the worship guy this week, but he didn't ever say like preaching. He kind of just shared his testimony through his art and through his story, and shared how as a kid he flunked out of school, was told he was no good, would never amount to anything. Now he's doing projects. In fact, if you haven't listened to the podcast, look up the No Shame podcast with Jeremy. He talks about it. But this Gatlinburg project that Michael's mentioning, let me just set it for you. Gatlinburg was destroyed by fires. Houses turned to rubble. People with no insurance. They lost their life work. They lost all their possessions, and it's just over for them. I wanted to sort of avoid those people because I don't know what to say. I almost turned the channel, but that's not what Jeremy's instinct was. Jeremy was like, what can we do? He said he had this idea, drones and mattresses.
Yeah.
Strange combination. So what he did was he brought a white, full-size, queen mattress, laid it in the rubble of the bedroom. So you've got
the burnt down bedroom.
Burnt down. Yeah. It's just
the
nothing
ruins.
But ashes and twisted metal and nothing. And he takes the homeowner or the homeowner and his wife or the family, and then he takes a drone 150 feet in the air and shoots these overheads down. So you're out of this blackness.
They're laying on the white mattress.
It's incredibly interesting.
Oh man, that's from God.
It's from God.
And because you're right, and now you have a picture of what those folks went through like nothing else you would have ever seen. If they had described what they went through, it wouldn't have been as effective as that drone view that he. I mean, man, it touched me.
And me too. And I asked him, "Were you?" I have, and you probably have too. It's like I don't want to be an ambulance chaser, right? But I am sent sometimes to do stories of people who have experienced horrific, tragic loss. I've got a film I got to do coming up in Nigeria, where women are alive, but Boko Haram killed their families. I've got a short film I'm going to do in Nepal, one in Colombia. And I am a little bit nervous sometimes because I'm afraid I don't want to exploit this person's pain. And I asked Jeremy, how'd you feel about that? And he was like, well, that's a good question. And I had to get over that. And I think because he honored them with his art,
did.
In the end, it's the quality of the art that makes it not exploitation, but it makes it respect.
Did she not have to kill her own mother or something? The terrorists made her, and she drew the picture.
Yeah, right.
Man, I mean, we need to know that there are people in this world going through horrific stuff. You know what it made me do? It made me say, God, forgive me for my stupid complaints.
Oh, I know.
You know what I'm saying? So,
so did our Linda Perez Eccles, who's blind. It was our keynote the first night. Linda had an amazing story. She can't see a thing. She lost her eyesight at age 20, and she's nothing but joy. She's nothing but joy.
Isn't that something?
And I just closed my eyes and tried to enter her world for 10 seconds.
Right.
And then, my goodness, I got to open my eyes.
Yeah.
And I can still see. And these little complaints just fade into obscurity and absurdity in a way
Yeah.
when we meet these amazing people. And then I wanted to bring this to the art side, because what you were talking about, Quentin Tarantino, and then we were talking about Jeremy Cower, and in the films that you're doing, in the pictures that you're making, it's not enough for us to just execute. Oh, we've got the scene is now in focus and well lit.
Mm-hmm.
The dialogue now makes sense. What really will break through in our craft anyway is the thing that's one step beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the art that Jeremy Cowart showed me this week has inspired me to be open to a step beyond the thing that works. We can both do things that work
Yeah.
pretty easily.
Yeah.
But how do we say, all right, God, I need something more than in my own strength I can make it work, but in the amazing creativity of God, when you see it flowing through other people, I want to tap into that with boldness and not hesitate.
Right.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I'm not even we're with Michael Joyner right now, but we're talking about Jeremy.
But I was so touched by that, and you're right. Because anyone else could have thought of what he thought of and did it for, I'm going to get famous doing this, and the spirit would not have come out.
That's right.
The Lord wouldn't have been in it, and it would have been it would have just been a secular thing.
Right.
That might have touched a few people, but, and I can, it's like, I walk in a room. We went to Nashville last night, me and my wife, and because we've never been there, so we watched some bands and stuff. And you know what? I told my wife, I said, I could only do this so much because of the spirit that's in that place, with all due respect. People drink and people do, and I like good music. But when I walk in this room with Russ Taff singing a simple song, Jesus is the Answer, whoa, things are happening where the Spirit of the Lord is, man. So it's just like that. It's all about motive. It's all about why are you doing it. And if you take something like whatever you do for God, He's going to magnify it and use it. And it's going to, anyone who's open to the Lord, their heart's going to be touched.
Well, Michael, I'm looking forward to tonight. I'm looking forward to how you... the bar is high here, by the way. The bar is really high, just to put a little pressure on you. I mean, a couple years ago, Shonda Pierce emceed this thing. I'm still laughing from her night emceeing that thing. But this group will...
Thanks for the encouragement.
Yeah, I want you to be as nervous as possible. No, if I want to find some of your stuff, how do I find your work, and where can I look up some of your stuff?
Thanks for that. Pretty much all my links are at michaeljoyner.com. Joyner's with an I. michaeljoyner.com has page for acting, page for comedy, filmmaking, and you can have some of my videos are there, and link to my YouTube page and all that stuff. It's pretty much all there. So.
Well, I look forward to doing it, Michael. I think
thanks, bro.
You,
this is awesome.
Love to work with you on any capacity sometime,
Yes.
or be of assistance to whatever you're doing if I ever could. And I will, like I said, hide in the back so you don't skewer me tonight with your sarcasm.
Have you seen yourself? I'll find you. No, I'm kidding.
Thank you for being on the No Shame
Okay,
podcast,
bro,
man.
you got it, man.
It's been a
God bless
pleasure.
you.
Have no shame. No, we are not afraid. No shame of the gospel of His name. It's the power of God by which we all are saved. We need not be afraid.
No Shame is a weekly podcast where John Groders discusses life at the intersection of faith and culture with all kinds of interesting and inspiring guests. Subscribe to the podcast today by going to johngroders.com, select the podcast tab, and hit subscribe. Listen whenever you have time, but don't miss any of these life-giving conversations.